Welcome to the deep dive. We are ripping into something really fascinating today.
Hmm.
It's a stack of excerpts from a Vietnamese audiobook, actually shared by you, the listener. And they seem packed with insights on, well, navigating life, careers, relationships, all the big stuff.
That's right. And these aren't, dry academic theories. They feel very grounded, perspectives pulled straight from lived experience.
Real stories.
Yeah, offering a really practical take on how people actually go after what they want, face challenges, and figure out what matters in their connections.
So our mission here is basically to pull out the core ideas, those maybe surprising insights, and distill the practical wisdom from these stories.
It's like a shortcut to some hard-won perspective, maybe.
Exactly, because let's be honest, sometimes the best lessons, the most profound ones, they just show up when you really look closely at the path someone else has walked, and that's what we're doing.
Right, let's dive in then.
Okay, so the source material kicks off with this idea that sounds, well, maybe a bit too good to be true at first. What you need, life will give you.
Right. But then there's that immediate condition, that catch.
Yes. The author looks to her own life. She quit a stable job, now does work she loves, seems pretty put together, and others see it as admirable. But she insists it's not because she's special or anything.
No, she puts it down to something quite simple, actually. Just maintaining good habits, staying optimistic, handling small problems efficiently as they come up. It's remarkably unglamorous, maybe.
It really is. And the main message she gets from this is, I think, incredibly powerful. She says, everyone starts from scratch.
Mhm.
The only thing you don't choose is your birth. Everything else, it's all down to the choices you make constantly. She really pushes back on happiness being tied just to money or status.
And she's firm that ability, talent, that stuff isn't just handed out. It has to be cultivated.
Mm.
Her point seems to be nobody is just luckier,
Mm.
maybe. Just more persistent.
More persistent. Yeah, that word really seems key, especially in the first big story the source shares about a man named A Ngạn.
All right, Guinea. So when he's young, 22, he's got this quiet, stable government job, modest salary. Seems pretty content. Nothing flashy.
Standard path, maybe. But then, life throws him a curveball. A big one. His girlfriend leaves him.
And the reason is incredibly blunt, apparently. She calls him a petty employee, says he can't give her the life she wants, and goes off to marry someone with higher status.
Oof. Yeah, that's gonna sting. A real gut
A
punch.
huge one. And this is where his story gets really interesting. Instead of just, being crushed by it at only 22, he makes this radical decision.
In which everyone opposed. His family, friends.
Everyone. But he quits that stable job, decides to start completely over, from the absolute bottom, taking the most basic work he could find.
Wow. Just wipes the slate clean. The source mentions he faced, well, countless hardships and mistakes you can only imagine.
Oh, absolutely. But somehow he maintained this incredible inner strength, this drive, and slowly, step by step, built his own career from scratch.
Okay, so fast forward quite a bit. He's around 40 now. He's built a successful business through all that effort. But then, another huge disruption.
The internet, especially after 2008, right? It changes everything.
Oh, right. And the source makes it clear he was not a tech guy at all. Like basic email, maybe some browsing.
Yeah, he apparently thought he'd never really need the internet for his business. Famous last words, almost.
Right. But this is where that persistence thing comes back again, doesn't it? Instead of throwing his hands up saying, I'm too old, I can't do this.
He decides to learn. The author describes him patiently teaching himself, asking younger people, the 9X generation, she calls them, for help. Not too proud.
That's key.
Attending online business forums, figuring out online shopping, analyzing sales dynamics online, the pros, the cons, buyer psychology.
He wasn't just, like, dipping a toe in. He was really trying to understand the whole ecosystem. The author notes he wasn't maybe as quick a learner as she was, but he stuck with it. Put in the hours, the frustration.
And her observation about this is really crucial, I think. She looks at his success later on and concludes pretty definitively it wasn't because he was smarter or luckier than anyone else.
It was the persistence.
That immense, unwavering persistence and effort. The source really hammers this home. True success is rooted in that kind of sustained work.
That is such a powerful way to frame it, isn't it? It takes it away from just innate talent or circumstance and puts it back onto something you control. Just showing up, doing the work, day after day.
Absolutely. And what's amazing is how Ngān's own story then directly impacted the author herself. He saw her feeling stuck, dreaming bigger, but hesitating.
Right, stuck in that office job.
And he encouraged her, told her, you're still young, pursue your dream. He even said, if you fail, at least you'll have the experience. Once you've tried, nothing to regret.
Did he really offer to eat vegetables and drink porridge with her if she failed?
Apparently so. Half joking, but the sincerity was there. That kind of belief, backed by his own incredible example.
Yeah, you can see how that would light a fire under someone. No wonder it inspired her to quit her own stable job, pursue writing, and then the jade business. Both successful now.
And this is where it connects right back to you, the listener. The source kind of makes you pause and think.
Hmm.
What about your own unfulfilled dreams? Is there something you've put on the shelf because you're afraid?
Afraid of the cost, the effort, the chance of failure.
Yeah, the source really suggests it's often that fear, that hesitation, that stops us from even starting.
So the big takeaway from this section seems clear. If you still have that passion burning inside for something, why not go for it? The source argues life can give you what you want
Yes.
if you're willing to put in that consistent, relentless effort. It's not passive.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears now.
Hmm.
Because the sources also dive deep into another really fundamental part of life, relationships, marriage specifically.
Ah, yes. And there's that classic question posed here, isn't there? One that I think a lot of people wrestle with.
Definitely. Should a girl marry someone she loves passionately or someone who loves her steadfastly?
The age-old dilemma. And
Hmm.
the source explores this through two really contrasting stories. Friends of the author, Lon and Vaughn. Tell us about Lon first.
Okay, so Lon, initially she had this very specific ideal partner in mind, elegant, refined, romantic, the whole package.
Movie version. Got it. But reality hits, and by age 30, who is she actually dating?
Someone described as, well, physically the complete opposite of her type. Short, not traditionally handsome, quiet. The source even uses the phrase, like a block of wood.
Ouch. Okay, so her initial feelings.
Not great, real dislike, even aversion. Dates felt forced, awkward for her. But then something started to change.
What
It
happened?
was all about how he treated her, exceptionally well. Cherished her, made her feel valued, secure, it was consistent. And based purely on his actions, she gradually stopped actively disliking him.
Even though he wasn't her type.
Exactly. So she's 30, maybe feeling that societal pressure, that clock ticking, and she decides. She marries him.
Not out of passionate love, but based on his consistent care. How he made her feel.
Precisely. And the source notes, apparently some people at the wedding were whispering, thinking he wasn't, good enough for her.
Ooh, harsh. But what was the outcome?
Here's the interesting part. The source highlights. Lon is described as being very happy in her marriage, really content. And her conclusion, the wisdom she shares with the author, is simple. It's better to marry someone who loves you.
Wow. Okay, so that's Lon. Now, Van's story is set up as the complete opposite.
Exactly. She marries her college sweetheart, her first love. It was that deep, affectionate relationship, shared dreams, intense feelings. Everyone thought it was perfect, blessed by all.
The dream scenario on paper.
Totally. That passionate in love start that so many people aim for.
Mm.
But, the source says, less than 2 years into the marriage, those intense feelings started to fade.
Oh.
Conflicts came up that they just couldn't seem to resolve, despite trying. Van started really worrying, wondering if the happiness could last. She even questions that old cynical line, is marriage really the tomb of love?
That comparison is so stark. Lan finds happiness where she didn't expect it. Van struggles where everything seemed perfect. So what's the author's analysis here? What's the insight drawn from these two?
Well, the author digs into the difference between sort of the nature of romantic love during dating versus the reality of marriage. When you're dating, caught up in it all, you crave the romance, the passion, the sweetness.
You project an ideal, maybe?
Exactly. You want the partner to be exciting, but also perfectly secure and dependable forever. Kind of contradictory, maybe?
You did a tall order.
But the source suggests that in the day-to-day of marriage, the actual need often shifts. It becomes less about those constant fireworks.
And more about
Stability, steadfast companionship. Just someone you can peacefully, comfortably grow old with. It's a different kind of connection. Maybe quieter.
And the problem arises, according to the source, when people expect that initial dating intensity to just continue forever, unchanged.
Precisely. When that passion naturally shifts or matures, as it often does, people feel like love has died. They feel betrayed, maybe. Start comparing now to how it felt back then. Leads to dissatisfaction.
So the key insight from the source is
Understanding that fundamental difference between the flush of romantic love and the nature of a long-term, stable, supportive partnership that is marriage. The source suggests that maybe focusing on finding that steady, consistent presence, someone whose actions show they value you day in, day out, might be more crucial for long-term marital happiness than chasing that initial, possibly fleeting intensity.
Hmm. That really does make you stop and think about your own expectations in relationships, doesn't it? How do you, listening now, distinguish between that exciting rush and the quieter strength of a partnership built over time?
It's a deep question.
Okay, let's move to another really powerful moment described in the sources. This one offers a totally different kind of insight about what real support looks like, especially in a crisis. It involves A Ngạn again on that business trip to Guangzhou.
Right, so picture this.
Yeah.
They're stuck on a plane on the tarmac before takeoff, and things go wrong. Badly wrong. The AC system breaks.
Oh no. And it's hot outside.
Extremely hot, 40 degrees Celsius, the source says. So the cabin just becomes this unbearable oven. Stifling.
You can almost feel the panic rising. What happened?
Passengers started freaking out, complaining loudly, demanding to get off the plane. Someone mentions their child is suffering from the heat. The author herself describes feeling intense anxiety. Her words were like ants on a hot pan, just completely overwhelmed, chaos.
Total nightmare scenario. And then Gun, in the middle of all this.
This is what's so striking. He remains totally calm, just sitting there quietly, reading a book.
Reading a book in that heat. While everyone else is panicking, I can imagine the author's reaction.
Oh yeah, total annoyance,
Yeah.
disbelief. She's like, aren't you hot? How can you possibly be so calm right now? She apparently brushed off his suggestion for her to calm down, like, how could she in that heat? And even got angry when he tried to comfort her physically. You want to hug me when we're drenched in sweat?
Huh. Yeah, understandable reaction maybe. Did anyone else notice his calmness?
Yes. Another passenger apparently pointed it out to the author, commented on how unusually calm he was.
But seeing him like that, even though she was initially irritated, it started to have an effect on her.
It seems so.
Yeah.
Just witnessing his composure, his stillness amidst the frenzy, it helped her feel a little less panicked herself. Maybe even a bit embarrassed by her own reaction in comparison.
Okay, but then comes the reveal, right? After the AC finally gets fixed.
Exactly. The AC kicks in, things start to cool down, and the author looks over at Aiton again, this picture of calm, and she notices he's also completely soaked in sweat, just as much as everyone else.
He was feeling it. He wasn't immune.
Not at all. So she asks him, weren't you hot too? And his explanation, really, is incredibly moving.
What did he say?
He admitted, of course I was hot. But he said he knew that if he started panicking too, her anxiety would just skyrocket. It would get even worse for her.
So he deliberately stayed calm as an anchor for her.
Precisely. His thought process was, no matter what happens, I must stay calm. Only then will you not be panicked. He chose that composure for her sake.
Wow. That's profound. How did she react when he told her that?
The author says she felt her eyes welling up, deeply touched. And it reveals this powerful insight from the source, doesn't it?
Yeah, that support in a crisis isn't always about mirroring the other person's feelings. It's not always about panicking together.
Right. Sometimes, maybe the most valuable support is providing that stabilizing, calm presence. Consciously choosing it even when you're struggling yourself, specifically to keep the other person from getting completely overwhelmed, to give them something solid to hold on to.
It really reframes what being there for someone means, especially when things are falling apart. It makes you think, doesn't it, about moments in your own life. Did someone's calm presence ever help you through something tough? And how does this idea maybe change how you think about supporting others going forward?
Definitely food for thought. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, we've traced a few really powerful threads through these sources, haven't we?
We have.
There's the fundamental importance of sheer perseverance and effort, embodied by Igneen's incredible story.
Which then directly inspired the author's own journey.
Exactly. Then we explored that really nuanced look at love versus marriage through Lon and Von's experiences, suggesting maybe steadfast companionship is key for long-term happiness.
Rather than just chasing that initial spark forever.
Right. And finally, that story on the plane, redefining supportive presence in a crisis as maybe being about calm strength, not shared panic.
It really shows the value of digging into these kinds of personal stories, doesn't it? They offer these shortcuts to understanding things that might take us years of our own experience to figure out otherwise. Real practical wisdom.
Learned the hard way by others, presented for us to consider. And the source material itself leaves us with a pretty direct challenge, echoing the author's own path.
It asks you, straight up, do you have any unfulfilled dreams? and strongly suggests maybe now's the time.
Time to seize them.
So, building on that and linking it back to that core message about effort and persistence from the very beginning, here's something to consider. What is just one small, persistent step you could take this week? Just one. Towards a dream you've maybe pushed aside.
Remembering that insight from the sources.
Right. That consistent effort, not just waiting for luck, not just relying on brilliance. That consistent effort is argued here as the real key to actually getting where you want to go.
Something to reflect on as you move forward from here.
Definitely. Keep exploring, keep reflecting. We'll be back with another deep dive soon.